The first sign of trouble came as a faint shimmer in the night sky. At first, people thought it was just a meteor shower. News channels ran live footage, children pointed from rooftops, and couples stopped on city streets to watch the glittering. Trails streaked through the atmosphere. But then, the trails didn't fade. They grew bigger, they multiplied. And they began to move in formation. By the time the world realized it wasn't nature putting on a show, it was already too late. The shimmering lights broke apart into enormous shapeships so large they blocked the stars. Some were the size of mountains, with spines of glowing metal and hulls blacker than space. Smaller craft swarmed around them like insects protecting. A queen. Governments scrambled to send messages, but no one received a reply. Instead, the ships positioned themselves above major cities, silent and unblinking, like predators studying prey, in a military command center buried deep under Washington. General Carter stood frozen in front of a wall of screens. Each feed showed the same nightmare: alien warships hovering over New York, London, Beijing, and dozens of other cities. The readings scrolling across the monitors told him what his gut already knew. These ships had firepower beyond anything humanity could match. The strongest empire in the galaxy had arrived, and Earth was its next conquest. The first voice from space came hours later, broadcast in every language, carried on every signal. It was cold, mechanical, and full of disdain. People of Earth, you will surrender all planetary control to the Dominion. Resistance will result in the destruction of your world. There was no bargaining, no discussion. Just an ultimatum. The feed cut off before anyone could answer, leaving only silence. That silence was worse than the threat itself. On the streets below, panic spread faster than the news. Sirens wailed, car horns blared, and people pushed through crowds in desperate attempts to get home or find loved ones. In New York, soldiers set up barricades, aiming weapons skyward, even though they knew bullets wouldn't do much against ships that could cross galaxies. Fear was in the air, heavy and suffocating. Everyone expected Earth to fight, but no one believed Earth could win. In the Pentagon, Carter's advisors argued. Some pushed for immediate surrender, claiming it would save lives. Others demanded retaliation, warning that bending to the empire would mean slavery for generations. Carter stayed quiet, his jaw locked. He knew the choice wasn't really his to make. The truth was, humanity had been preparing for something like this quietly, in secret, for decades. While other worlds might crumble under the Empire's power, Earth had something no other planet did. Something the Empire had never seen before, far out in the Pacific Ocean, hidden beneath a false island that didn't appear on any map. A facility came to life. Giant metal doors opened beneath the waves, releasing a deep, vibrating hum that traveled through the water like the heartbeat of some colossal creature. Inside, engineers moved quickly, their faces pale but determined. Banks of strange machinery, older than anyone in the room, began to glow with blinding light. Humanity's oldest secret weapon was waking up. In orbit, the Empire's flagship adjusted its position, its sensors locking onto the sudden surge of energy from Earth's surface. The ship's commander, an alien with skin like molten steel, frowned. "Primitive world," he muttered in his own language. "Do they think they can hide from us?" He ordered his fleet to prepare for planetary bombardment. The humans would be given one last chance to kneel, then the skies would burn. On the ground, Carter received confirmation from the Pacific facility. "Sir, it's ready," the voice said over the secure channel. Carter's heart pounded. The plan was risky. It could save the planet or doom it faster than any alien weapon. But there was no more time to hesitate. "Activate it," he ordered. Across the world, the lights flickered, and the air itself seemed to hum. Somewhere deep under the ocean, something impossibly ancient and impossibly human began to rise. Asterisk, the water erupted like a volcano, sending towering waves in every direction. From beneath the Pacific, A shape began to rise, massive, dark, and bristling with strange metal structures. It was not a ship built in the age of satellites or space travel. Its design was older, almost ancient, yet it radiated a kind of power that made even modern war machines look like toys. The hum grew louder until the air seemed to vibrate in people's bones. As the colossal structure broke the surface, it revealed gleaming black armor etched with symbols no one alive could read. Energy pulsed along its edges, glowing a deep blue. It was a fortress, a ship, and a weapon all at once. The people in the command center could only stare at the live feed. Some whispered that it was a relic from the first human civilization, one that vanished long before recorded history. Others believed it was a gift left behind by something, or someone not from Earth. The alien commander watched from orbit, his molten eyes narrowing. "Unexpected," he growled. "Destroy it." His fleet obeyed. A swarm of smaller craft peeled away from the main formation, diving toward the strange human structure. Bright lances of energy streaked through the sky, hitting the ocean with explosions so powerful they sent shockwaves across the waves. But when the water cleared, the fortress still stood. Its armor hadn't even scorched. From deep inside the structure, ancient systems came alive. Towers rose, rotating until they locked onto targets in the sky. Without warning, beams of white light erupted upward. They weren't like the alien energy blasts. These were faster, sharper, and deadlier. One by one, the alien ships that had dived toward the fortress exploded in blinding flashes, their debris raining down into the sea. In less than a minute, the attack squadron was gone. General Carter's radio crackled with the voice of the fortresses. "Commander," a woman whose identity was classified even to most of the military. "Targets neutralized," she said calmly, as though she hadn't just destroyed the galaxy's most feared warships in seconds. "Ready for full engagement." Carter didn't know who she was or where she had come from, but right now, she was humanity's best chance at survival. In the cities, the people who had been screaming and running now stopped to watch the sky. They saw the alien ships pulling back, regrouping. They saw flashes of fire far above as invisible weapons clashed. In the upper atmosphere, the fear that had gripped them began to loosen, replaced by something else. It was small at first, fragile and uncertain, but it was there. Hope. The alien commander slammed his clawed hand onto the control panel. "Bring the capital ship forward," he barked. The largest vessel in the fleet, a monster that blotted out the sun, moved into position above the Pacific. Its underside began to glow as it prepared a weapon powerful enough to erase an entire continent. "They will kneel," he hissed, "or they will burn." Around him, his officers avoided eye contact. They had never seen a planet resist the dominion like this. In the fortress, alarms wailed. The sensors detected the growing energy above. The woman's voice came again, sharper this time. "They're going to fire on us. If they do, it's over. We have one shot to stop them." Carter's hands tightened into fists. "Then take it." The fortress's towers rotated again, but this time they did not fire beams of light. Instead, a sphere of pure energy formed above its central platform, growing larger and brighter until it was painful to look at. The alien commander's second-in-command glanced nervously at the readings. "Sir, whatever they are charging, it's not like any weapon we've encountered. I advise," but he didn't finish. The sphere in the fortress collapsed inward, then exploded outward in a single blinding pulse. It wasn't fire. It wasn't heat. It was something else entirely, something that made the alien capital ship's shields shatter like glass. In the space of a heartbeat, the weapon punched a hole straight through the center of the massive vessel. From the surface, people saw a ball of light burst high above, followed by the distant echo of the explosion. The sky rained molten metal. The alien flagship, the pride of the Empire, fell in silence, breaking apart before it even touched the ocean. For the first time since the invasion began, the alien fleet hesitated. They were not used to hesitation. They were not used to fear. And yet, here it was, crawling into their minds like ice water. The alien fleet drifted in the upper atmosphere, no longer advancing. Smoke and debris from the destroyed capital ship floated between the surviving vessels like silent warnings. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion had lost a flagship. Their enemies had always fallen quickly, their defenses shattered within hours. But Earth had done something none of them thought possible. It had fought back, and it had won the first strike. General Carter's command room was silent, except for the hum of electronics. Every officer was staring at the feed from the Pacific. Fortress. The woman in charge was standing on an open platform, her black uniform rippling in the wind. She wasn't celebrating. She was scanning the skies, calculating. "They'll try again," she said. "They'll come in waves this time, but they won't make the same mistakes." Her tone carried no fear, only certainty. In orbit, the alien commander paced the bridge of his secondary warship. His claws tapped against the metal floor. "Inform the High Council," he ordered. "Tell them Earth is not what we believed. They have relic technology." The words tasted bitter. To the Dominion, relic technology was something feared, and respected devices left behind by an unknown civilization older than the Empire itself. No world with such power had ever been conquered easily. Back on Earth, the fortress's energy reserves were being pushed to their limits. The ancient systems, dormant for centuries, were never meant to run continuously at full power. Engineers in the hidden Pacific base worked frantically to stabilize the reactors. The air smelled of ozone and hot metal, and every gauge seemed to be in the red. Carter watched the readings with clenched fists, knowing that one wrong move could burn out their only real defense. In New York, survivors crowded onto rooftops, watching the distant lights of the battle. Some prayed, some wept. Others whispered rumors about what had risen from the ocean. "It's alien," said one man. "No," replied a woman beside him. "It's human, older than history. My grandfather told me stories about it." The crowd listened in silence, each of them clinging to the fragile belief that Earth might survive this after all. The alien commander sent his next wave hundreds of smaller attack craft, each one fast and heavily armed. They streaked toward the fortress, their weapons glowing, leaving trails of fire in the sky. The woman in black didn't flinch. She gave a single order. The fortress's towers shifted, transforming into rail cannons that hurled solid projectiles at hypersonic speeds. The incoming ships were shredded in seconds, their wreckage falling like burning rain into the sea. But then, something unexpected happened. Instead of retreating, the alien ships broke formation and scattered. Some attacked from above, others from below the waves. They were adapting. For the first time, the fortress's defenses were pushed to their limits. Explosions tore across its outer hull. A deep shudder ran through the structure, and one of its towers collapsed into the ocean with a massive splash. General Carter's voice cut through the chaos. "Hold the line. Do not let them breach." But deep down, he knew the fortress couldn't endure this forever. The alien commander had realized brute force wouldn't work, so now he was trying to overwhelm them with numbers. On the bridge of his warship, the commander smiled coldly. "They will drown beneath us," he said. The woman in black activated a final defensive protocol. The ocean around the fortress began to churn violently. Massive steel spires rose from the water, linked by glowing arcs of energy. A dome of light formed above the fortress, catching enemy fire and scattering it into harmless bursts. It was beautiful and terrifying, a shield unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. For a moment, the fleet hesitated again. Then, from the far edge of the solar system, a second Dominion fleet began to arrive. These were not scouts or mid-tier warships. These were the Emperor's personal guard, the most advanced vessels in the known galaxy. Their arrival would change the battle completely. The woman in black stared at the incoming ships, her expression unreadable. "So," she said softly, "the real war begins now." Asterisk. The second Dominion fleet emerged from the darkness of space like a wall of metal and fire. Their hulls gleamed with strange patterns, each one pulsing with crimson light. These were warships. From the Emperor's personal armada, vessels so feared that entire star systems had surrendered at the sight of them. They came in perfect formation, silent and unstoppable, as if the void itself had delivered them to Earth's doorstep. General Carter watched the radar as the dots multiplied. "How many?" he asked. An officer swallowed hard before answering. "Enough to wipe us out twice over, sir." The room went cold. The first wave had already pushed the fortress close to its limits. Now this second wave would finish the job unless they did something no one expected. Carter's gaze shifted to the live feed from the Pacific. Where the woman in black stood waiting, she seemed almost calm, though the water on the fortress churned with the weight of incoming fire. "They're going to test the shield," she said into her calm, "and they'll find the cracks." Her fingers moved across an ancient control panel, activating systems that hadn't been touched in thousands of years. Strange holographic symbols hovered in the air, spinning slowly, locking into new positions like pieces of an impossible puzzle. The alien commander of the Emperor's Guard addressed his fleet. "Do not underestimate them," he said. His voice was deeper than thunder, carrying the weight of centuries. "Their weapon destroyed a capital ship. Treat them as a worthy opponent. Before you crush them." The Dominion ships spread into attack formation, their weapons glowing like distant suns. The first salvo came without warning, a rain of plasma fire that lit up the sky. The fortress's shield absorbed the first impacts, scattering energy into the waves below. But each hit weakened the dome. The glow flickered, pulsing as if struggling to stay alive. Engineers inside the base shouted over the alarms, trying to divert more power, but the ancient reactors were already at full capacity. Sweat dripped from their faces as they realized they were fighting not just the aliens, but the limits of their own machine. In New York, in Tokyo, in Cairo, people stood frozen as they watched the sky erupt. Some clutched each other. Others clenched their fists. Every television, every phone, every screen showed the same images the fortress holding, but barely. The world seemed to stand on the edge of a knife. One more push, and humanity would fall. But in the command center, Carter's voice was steady. "We're not done yet," he said. The woman in black took a deep breath and pressed her palm against the glowing symbols. The fortress responded. From its sides, massive panels unfolded, revealing weapons no one had seen before. They looked like enormous black spines, each one humming with contained power. "We can't match their numbers," she said quietly. "So we'll take the numbers away." Her hand slammed down on the activation control. In the sky, hundreds of beams shot outward, but they didn't aim for ships directly. Instead, they connected to one another, weaving a vast glowing net in space. The alien fleet didn't understand what was happening until it was too late. The net contracted, trapping dozens of warships inside. Energy surged through the web, frying systems, burning out engines, and leaving the trapped vessels dead in the water. In seconds, a quarter of the Emperor's armada was crippled. On the alien flagship, the commander's eyes widened. "Impossible," he muttered. "No one has technology like this." His second-in-command hesitated before answering. "Except the ones the old legends warned about." The commander turned sharply. "You mean humans? That's not possible." But as he stared at the glowing fortress on the planet below, doubt crept into his mind. If the legends were true, then they weren't fighting a primitive world. They were fighting the descendants of something far older and far deadlier. The surviving alien ships pulled back to regroup. For the first time since arriving, they were the ones reacting instead of attacking. On Earth, people cheered, screaming into the streets. But inside the fortress, the woman in black didn't smile. Her eyes were fixed on the sky, on the ships that still remained. "They're not done," she said. "This was just their opening move. The Emperor will come himself." The sky over Earth turned darker than night as a single ship emerged from the void. It was unlike the others, larger, older, and built with an artistry that spoke of a time before the Dominion became a machine of conquest. Its hull shimmered like black glass, and every line of its design seemed to radiate authority. This was the Emperor's flagship, a vessel that had never been seen by any world and lived to tell the tale. General Carter stood in the command room, his eyes fixed on the new arrival. "That's him," he said. No one asked who, they all knew. The Emperor did not travel for routine battles. His presence meant the fight had reached a level of importance beyond strategy. This was personal. Carter turned to the feed from the Pacific Fortress. "What's our status?" he asked. The woman in black didn't look up from her controls. "We can hold for now," she said. The Emperor's voice filled the airwaves, deep and cold, speaking in perfect English. "People of Earth, you have fought with strength. More than I expected. But this ends now. Surrender, and I will let your world live. Refuse, and I will erase your oceans, your cities, your history." His words were calm, almost gentle, but there was no mistaking the truth behind them. He meant everyone. Carter's answer was short. "We refuse." The line went dead. A moment later, the Emperor's ship began to glow along its edges. The light spread until the whole vessel burned with an otherworldly fire. Scientists watching from Earth's surface recognized it instantly. It was a planetary siege weapon, one capable of cracking continents apart. The fortress's shield had held so far, but against this, even it might fail, inside the Pacific base. The woman in black opened a hidden compartment in the control platform. Inside lay a crystal sphere, faintly glowing. She stared at it for a long moment before speaking into her com. "General, this is our last option. Once I activate this, there's no going back." Carter's voice was steady. "Do it." Around them, the fortress groaned like something alive, preparing for its final act. In orbit, the Emperor watched the fortress's energy readings spike. His expression hardened. "So it's true," he muttered to himself. "They are the heirs." His crew glanced at him in confusion. "What heirs, my lord?" one asked. But the Emperor did not answer. His attention was locked on the planet. Below, he had heard the old legends, whispers that humans were not native to this part of the galaxy, that they were something far older and more dangerous than even the Dominion itself. The fortress's surface split open, revealing structures hidden beneath its armor. Great metal rings rose into the air, spinning slowly. Between them, a blinding sphere of energy began to form, growing brighter and larger with each passing second. The water around the fortress boiled away, leaving a steaming crater in the ocean. The woman's voice came over the comm again. "Once it's ready, it will not just target his ship, it will target his throne." Carter's eyes widened. "You mean his homeworld?" She didn't answer. The Emperor realized what was happening. "They're not just defending," he growled. "They're striking back." He ordered his fleet to open fire, pouring every weapon they had into the fortress. The ocean erupted with explosions, the sky lit with fire, and the shield cracked under the relentless assault. But the weapon kept charging, the rings spinning. Faster, the light almost unbearable to look at. Across Earth, people could see the glow on the horizon. They didn't know what it was, but they could feel it. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a statement. The world that the Dominion had called primitive was about to show the galaxy why it had never been conquered. The woman in black placed both hands on the controls, her voice steady and cold. "Fire." The sphere of energy exploded upward, shooting into the void. It passed through the Emperor's ship like it wasn't there, carving a perfect hole straight through its center. The shockwave ripped across space, scattering the surviving Dominion ships. But the beam didn't stop, it kept going, vanishing into the darkness toward a world no human had ever seen, but every Dominion officer feared. The beam vanished into the blackness of space, but its impact was felt instantly across the Dominion. On the Emperor's flagship, alarms screamed as the central core failed. Fires tore through the halls. Gravity flickered, throwing soldiers against the walls. The Emperor stood in the middle of the chaos, his molten eyes fixed on the planet below. "So," he said quietly, "the legends were true." His voice carried no fear, only respect, and something close to regret. The ship's bridge erupted in a wave of white light as the damage spread. Massive explosions bloomed along the hull, sending fragments of black glass drifting into the void. From Earth's surface, people saw the once proud flagship break apart like a dying star. Cheers erupted in the streets. Strangers hugged each other, crying with relief. But in the Pacific fortress, the woman in black didn't celebrate. She knew the battle wasn't over, not yet. Far away, on the Dominion homeworld, the beam arrived. It tore through the Emperor's throne palace, shattering walls of ancient stone and steel. Towers collapsed in seconds. The energy spread through the planet's crust, fracturing it like thin ice. Across the galaxy, Dominion ships received a single transmission images of their Emperor's seat in ruins. His banners burned to ash. The message was clear. Earth would not be conquered. The surviving Dominion fleet, now leaderless, hesitated in orbit. Some ships powered down their weapons. Others fled without orders, vanishing into hyperspace. The woman in black opened a channel to all frequencies. Her voice was calm, but it carried the weight of every human victory. "This is Earth," she said. "We are not your prey. If you come for us again, you will not return." The signal spread across space, bouncing from ship to ship until the entire galaxy heard it. General Carter leaned back in his chair, his shoulders finally relaxing. "It's over," he said quietly. But the woman shook her head on the screen. "No, General. This was only the first time. Now they know what we are." Carter met her eyes, understanding the truth. The fortress had saved them today, but its existence meant the galaxy's most dangerous powers would never forget Earth again. In the streets of every city, people looked up at the clear sky. The alien ships were gone. The stars shone again. But something had changed in the hearts of everyone who had watched the battle. They no longer saw themselves as small or helpless. They had faced the strongest empire in the galaxy and ended the fight in a single day. Stories of the battle began spreading before the wreckage had even cooled. On the edge of the Pacific, the fortress slowly sank back beneath the waves, disappearing until only calm water remained. Its systems went dormant, its glowing symbols fading to black. The woman in black stood alone on the deck, watching the sun rise. She knew her duty wasn't over. The fortress would sleep, but one day, it would wake again. And when that day came, humanity would be ready. In the Dominion's shattered council chamber, surviving commanders argued over their next move. Some demanded revenge, others urged retreat. Without the Emperor's iron rule, the Dominion was crumbling from within. For the first time in centuries, dozens of conquered worlds saw a chance for freedom. And they whispered one name to each other: Earth. On Earth, life began to return to normal. Cities rebuilt, families reunited. But the people never forgot the day the sky was filled with warships and the ocean rose to fight back. Children drew pictures of the fortress in school. Veterans told their stories to anyone who would listen. And somewhere in the shadows, Carter continued to prepare. Knowing the galaxy was far from finished with them, the world had been tested, and it had passed. Earth was no longer just a distant blue planet. It was a name that carried weight across the stars, a warning carved into the history of every empire. The strongest fleet the galaxy had ever known had come to conquer and had been broken in an instant.